We are here tonight to learn the challenges of managing tomorrow's people from our renowned speaker, the director and the chairman of Board of Management of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jawadarnapura, Sri Lanka, Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri. Professor Dharmasiri also serves as an adjunct professor in International Human Resources Management at the Price College of Business, University of Oklahoma, USA. Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri is a Commonwealth Doctoral Fellow and a Fulbright Postdoctoral Fellow. Professor Dharmasiri has earned his doctorate and master's degree in business administration from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jawadarnapura, whereas bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka. He is a chartered electrical engineer, a member of the Chartered Institute of Management UK, and a fellow member of the Sri Lanka Institute of Training and Development. And Professor Dharmasiri conducted consultancies in 15 countries in Africa, Asia, and Middle East. And Professor serves in the boards of National Institute of Business Management, Citizens Development Business Finance PLC, and the Association of Management Development Institutions of South Asia. Being a scholar, Professor Dharmasiri has presented research papers at international conferences in more than 10 cities in Asia, America, Australia, and Europe. He has published articles in local and foreign journals and is also an author of 2 books. Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri has earned many honors, including gold medals for best papers in 2 international management conferences, platinum award by alumni of the Postgraduate Institute of Management PIMA for outstanding academic contribution in year 2010, and prestigious IPM Lifetime Gold Award 2014, the highest honor for an HR professional in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, we can describe Professor Ajantha Dharmasiri is one who transitioned from being an electrical engineer of electrical to an engineer of hearts and minds. Sir, it is indeed a great honor to have you with us in this evening. And this is the time for us to hear from you, sir. Would you please?
Okay, thank you very much for the very nice introduction about me. I would say a description larger than life. Now the challenge is to live up to that. So I'm very happy and indeed delighted to be with you all when Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka UAE chapter and PIM alumni UAE chapter, they got together, collaborated in making this evening a meaningful reality, and let me appreciate their hard work and their effort in bringing all of you all to this venue in meeting all of us. So in that sense, let me at the outset acknowledge their wonderful contribution. So how I typically start a program is by greeting you all. So let me do that. Good evening.
Good evening.
For that particular good evening response you all gave me, if you have to evaluate by giving marks out of 10, I know there are accountants who are number crunchers, who are evaluators. If you have to give marks out of 10, how much of marks you would give? For that particular good evening response that you all gave me, the return response.
Maybe 7.
2 out of 10. Is it that bad or is it little higher?
Maybe 7.
7 out of 10. So one answer is 2, another answer is 7, and I overheard someone saying 5. Okay, so 5 plus 7, 12, 12 plus 2, 14, 14 divided by 3, 4.67. So what does that mean? There's still 60% opportunity for improvement, isn't it? I think the walls are fairly straight. The ceiling, there's no threat of collapsing on us. I think we're absolutely secure in Holiday Inn Express Knowledge Village. So shall we put all our energies together in this wonderful, sunny, pleasant evening in order to get the best by giving the best? Shall we give the best good evening that we have given in the recent past? So what is the target this time? Nothing less than, can it be 2? No way. Can it be 7? It has to be nothing less than 10 out of 10. Are we ready?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Wonderful. Give a big round of applause to everyone. That shows the spirit of learning. That shows the spirit of collaboration. And I'm indeed proud that we together as Sri Lankans in a different country, and we are together learning something together. So I'm very happy that the person who introduced told this as a session, not as a lecture. Because even though my designation was senior lecturer for some time before I took over as a director, I must confess that I hate giving lectures. Because my definition of a lecture is one person stands behind the podium and keeps on speaking, and the rest all keep on sleeping. Evan duka kati no eva. So instead what I would encourage is to have an interactive discussion. Let's interact and discuss and take away something meaningful, take away something applicable, take away something related to what you do, and would allow you to reflect and reinforce what you do better. Is that a good way of spending the evening?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I need your response for me to keep going, and also to prove the point that you are still awake and alert. Okay? Right. So with that pleasant thoughts, let me move on to talk about the topic, which is challenges of managing tomorrow's people. So PIM had been my second home for the past 12 years or so, and Price College is my summer home, where I go there every summer to teach international human resource management. So the relationship began when I went as a Fulbright scholar, and thereafter every year they invite me to teach there. So these are some of my social interactions: print media, 2 columns weekly, and electronic media. If you happen to watch Sri Lankan channels, you can click Doromadalawa. Last 2 weeks ago I appeared, and some of the work I do through Institute of Personnel Management, and there's some collaboration with Chartered Accountants Institute in Sri Lanka as well. And these are the 6 books that I have written. That CV should have been corrected as 6. So the latest one just came, HRM for Managers, a learning guide, 4 in English and 2 in Sinhala. And these are my consultancy and training assignments in 15 countries. If I have to recall, Brunei, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Maldives, Bangladesh, China, and so on and so forth. Okay, and this is my summer teaching. And technology is absolutely fantastic. We have a touchpad. When you touch the pad, even the window flaps would move. Everything is well wired, well connected. And on top of that, coming from a rural area, going to Suddha's country as a Game Kolla and teaching them in Suddha's language gave me additional satisfaction. That's how I look at my US encounter. And I start in a very formal attire at the beginning of the summer, and when the summer really hots up, I get into a pair of shorts, which is very usual, very common there. So that's about me. How about you all? How many are from Chartered Accountants Alumni Membership, CA, UA chapter? By way of raising hands? Thank you. Shall we give them a big round of applause in welcoming them? And then obviously the balance. How many are from PIMA UA chapter? Shall we give them also a big round of applause? And I was very happy to tell you that we resurrected the MBA program in UAE, and we are running now for the 3rd term, and I just concluded the module on human resource management. We have a flying faculty model. Every first Middle Eastern weekend of the month, someone from Colombo would come and deliver 70% of the entire module physically. Thursday night, Friday full day, Saturday full day. And the remaining 30% we upload to the Pragya learning portal, which is the learning portal of PIM. And it could be videos, it could be cases, it could be other learning material. So we call it a blended learning approach, which so far so good. We get satisfactory feedback, and we are intending to start the next batch hopefully in October, and we would start communicating somewhere in July, and we would have the admission test and the interviews in September, and we'll be starting the program in October. And the vibrancy of the Middle Eastern programs have got extended to Qatar. Now we have launched the PIM alumni in Doha, Qatar, with the first batch that they have passed out, and now they are very keen in launching the PIM MBA in Doha. So we'll be having the admission test and interviews next week, and Doha MBA program by PIM would be commencing in early May. So hopefully that will also give us new visitors in the Middle Eastern range. So it's a lean model. We don't have a physical center as such, and we are not intending to invest in building infrastructure. We want to build hearts and minds. So we believe in having study groups who follow the blended learning method, and the consistency is assured. Whatever we have in Colombo as Jayawardhanapura degree, same level of quality, same level of quantity is maintained in Dubai and Doha. That's the assurance that we'll be giving. And we were the first to have a payment gateway through a leading bank in Colombo. So we don't touch a single dirham, we don't touch a single dollar. Everything is through the electronic transfer. So we have sorted out those admin hassles, those admin loopholes. So it's all streamlined, process driven, consistency maintained, quality driven approach that we are having. So this is not a commercial advertisement, just to share what we are going through, and I think it's relevant to some of the aspiring candidates for future MBA program. And I'm having a very friendly, cordial relationship with Chartered Institute back in Colombo, and Mr. Lasantha Vikramatunga, the Chartered Institute president, is he's an ex officio member of PIM Board of Management, and he came for the Board of Management meeting last Wednesday, and after that we had a long chat about Sri Lankan economy, which we need to discuss a lot. Okay, so talking about the road ahead, what we are going to do for the next 1 hour together, I'm going to raise 3 fundamental questions and attempt to answer together. So what are these 3 questions in line with the topic that we have picked up? Question number 1, who are tomorrow's people? What type of people would we encounter in time to come? Who are they? That's question number 1. And second one, why are they significant? Why the hell do we have to worry about them? Why are they significant? What is the speciality in them? How are they different from the others? We are going to look at that. And third, for me, is the most important one. What should we do differently with regard to tomorrow's workforce, with regard to tomorrow's employees, tomorrow's people? What are the things that we need to rethink, reflect, and sometimes to do differently? So those 3 questions will make sure that we have a comprehensive understanding of challenges of managing tomorrow's people. Is there a good way of spending the next 1 hour?
Yes. Yes.
Can't hear. Is there a good way?
Yes.
Thank you for showing that you are still awake. Okay. So the reality around us, we need to look at the context. The reality is what? Change, and more change. Everything is changing. Even the rate of change has accelerated. As Buddha said long time ago, only permanent thing in the whole world is change. Everything is changing. So this is the reality. Even the Middle Eastern markets are changing. The global economy is changing. The socio-political fabric is changing. And humanly we are changing. Our body cells are changing every minute. So change is the phenomena which we have to embrace and encounter. Who is the person you see here? Who is the person? A crying baby. Is change comfortable? Do people like change? There's a thing called resistance to change. People don't like change. Generally people are uncomfortable when change happens. But they say this is the only person who likes change. A baby with a wet diaper. He or she would like change. But others, they resist change. There's a term called RTC, resistance to change. Because change allows you to move out of your comfort zone. Change allows you to do things differently. Change allows you to have a behavioral difference. So that's where people become uncomfortable. People become insecure. People become little unsettled. Some of you all would have seen this happening to your Sri Lankan colleagues with the economic challenges. So that's the reality. So I would say this is the phenomena that we need to go through. I'm going to show you a picture. What do you see here? Something is getting unloaded from a Pan-American aircraft. So what is being unloaded? Sorry? 1 MB. Not 1 MB, 5 MB. 5 MB. In 1956. So I have 12,000 higher capacity flash drive in my pocket. 128 GB. So what is the point? Technology has advanced our life in terms of changing. So change has been propelled by technology. They say that change infused by information communication technology, ICT. If you compare the rapid growth in ICT to the airline industry, it's like Wright brothers having the first flight in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and in 3 days Space Shuttle Challenger takes off. That is the rapidness of change happening in the IT field. So technology has enabled change. Technology has become a driver of change. And that change has invited us to move from a rowing world to a rafting world. So let me explain. What do you mean by rowing world? That is the era that we were enjoying long time ago. How many of you have done rowing as a sport? Is it available in the creek, rowing? Do people do rowing? No? I remember in the Bolgoda Lake next to the Morato University, there was a rowing club. So rowing, what is the nature and the features? Is a calm, quiet, predictable water, and the leader gives instruction. Everyone, consistency follows the instruction. Instead, when you look at the rafting world, what is the difference? Things are so volatile, things are so unpredictable, things are so challenging, and you can't have one consistent way of behaving. You can't have one predictable way of doing things. Things are so suddenly changing. So my observation is, ladies and gentlemen, we are rapidly moving from a rowing world to a rafting world. So what are the features of the rowing world? Safe, slow, and strict. Everyone is having a very safe situ, and they have their own pace. There's nothing to rush, and very strict adherence to the rules, regulations, way of doing things. That era is gone. We need to move from 3S to what I call 3F. Focused, fast, and flexible. You need to have focus. You need to stay on focus, on course right throughout for your own survival. Leave out the success, survival. And you got to be speedy, fast, and flexible, adjustable, adaptable. So the invitation is we need to move from 3S to 3F. That's the future. That's the future. So tomorrow's workforce will be more 3F oriented than 3S oriented. So let me ask you this fundamental question. Ask from you, am I still in 3S world or 3F world? Am I still in the rowing world, or have I sufficiently shifted to the rafting world? If the answer is no, you have to rethink about your approach. If you get stuck in a rowing world, the world will move ahead, leaving you behind. That will be the reality. So you got to be focused, you got to be fast, you got to be flexible. And you might ask the question, why not safe? I am not referring to physical safety. I am referring to taking risks. You got to take risks. Then only you would become entrepreneurial. In order to build something, in order to develop something, in order to expand something, you got to move from your comfort zone in moving beyond, in taking risks. Agree with me? Sounds good? So are we really willing to move from rowing world to the rafting world? Are you really sure? Some are looking at me whether they are not really convinced. Right? So let's move on. This is the backdrop in which we are going to look at the future. So future demands rafting. Future demands focused, fast, flexible from employers as well as employees. In that sense, change through ages. How this change took place? There is this very interesting classification we call generations. First, it was a longitudinal research, a lengthy research done by two gentlemen, William Strauss and Neil Hovey. And they published their research in the book Generation, the History of America's Future. So this generational study was the first attempt to classify different age groups and linking them to the historical events that took place. And there are pluses and minuses. There's one biggest criticism is that they all related to American events. They all related to US based events. But still some attempt was done to classify, categorize, group people, age group to the history. So this is where the generations come into the scene. So generations essentially a Western classification, and even to be precise, it's more of a US classification, and based on historical events and debate on applicability to South Asia, to the Middle East and other part of the world. So there's a debate going on. I'll talk about it later. But first let's understand what these generations are all about, because that will be the lens through which we are going to look at future. So future generation will be a logical extension or an evolution of these generations that we have seen in the past. Okay? So these are the 6 generations that we see in the workforces today. First 2 are slowly dwindling and almost gone by now. So G1, silent, then you get baby boomers who were witnessing the world wars, and then generation X and millennial Gen Y and Gen Z, they are yet to come to the workforce. And the most recent study done by Deloitte Consulting, their millennial study 2016, say, interestingly, if you look at the population of a country, in India, 50% of the population, they belong to millennials. And in 2020, they predict that in the entire global workforce, 50% of them will be millennials. That's the way future is being shaped. So interestingly, if I recall at PIM, the faculty and the admin, we have one professor who is still a baby boomer, Professor Tilak Fonseca. Some of you all would have met him. And Gen X, including me, there are plenty of academics in Gen X. And we have millennials, 1 or 2 in the IT center. They are the whiz kids, they are the IT tech savvy people. So Gen Z, probably our kids belong to them. And they are very smart. We will talk about it later. So this is how these generations are moving away, and millennials, they are going to be the formidable force in future. Then we should know the features of them. We should be clear about the nature of them and how to tackle them, how to manage them, how to work with them, how to get work done through them. Therefore, let's look at the unfolding of generations. Historically, how the generations have evolved and how they were linked to certain identified historical events, predominantly in the US. So let me invite you to watch this brief video clipping, which will take us through the fascinating journey of generations.
What are you doing right now? Is it something that you really love? Millions of people at this very second are doing exactly what makes them happy. But wait a minute. You spend a big part of your life working. And any job has the potential to drive you insane.
I think this is a good time for a break.
But, of course, there's a bright side. And the best thing, time off. As a matter of fact, the way we work influences new trends and behaviors in society. And if some things are new and different to you, and to everyone else, it's good to know that the ones who really captured the idea are those young millennials. Otherwise known as Generation Y, G, we, globalists. Okay, we know you heard about this. They represent a new workforce in the global market and have high aspirations. Half of them already have or plan to open their own businesses. Because of their digital, liquid, and collective mindset, they are affecting the way we produce and work in the future. Sounds complicated? Actually, keeping things simple was the motto that baby boomers worked by in the 60s and 70s. Rules were a lot clearer back then. The workspace was confined to the office. Responsibilities were individual-based and very specific, and you knew exactly the right time to start and finish your day. At that time, after the World Wars, the institution represented the security that everyone was having a job would guarantee social status and was the first step towards marriage and a first kid 9 months later. Work didn't mix with personal life. No bringing work home. But baby boomers worked a lot. And this had to do with keeping a deep sense of discipline and honor. Day-to-day sacrifices guaranteed that the family would be taken care of, and they knew that a big payoff would come next, even if it would take a while. However, Generation X redefined the time relationship between work and reward. Super confident, extroverted, very competitive, and doing everything in their power to achieve quick growth, these guys are always on the lookout for better offers. A profitable idea could easily put them into a leadership position based on meritocracy without taking their experience into account. As they search for more ways to personally stand out and be professionally independent, they rely on degrees, including MBAs and PhDs, to get ahead of their competitors. In this more individualistic style of thinking, a nice wardrobe and a business card could help them close better deals and expand their network. Being in the right place at the right time is what would define the work schedule. Business time was extended into the happy hour. This mix between personal and professional life turned a workaholic into someone who was admirable and even sexy. The winner was whoever could get onto the board of directors in the shortest time possible.
I can do anything if I can just get a chance.
And thus immediately live off the pleasures of this achievement. But today the journey's a little different. It really seems more important to have fun on the ride than to make it to the final destination. Ironically, millennials, those unpredictable kids, are the ones perfectly translating this new vision. In a time when pleasure determines professional accomplishment, they know, like no one else, how to recognize opportunities that link passion with work. The creative economy, new professions, an entrepreneurship boom, and the new collective power are painting a brilliant and never-before-seen scenario. No wonder millennials millennials are so impatient, the speed at which they connect with the world sets the pace for their work relations. Projects that don't even make a difference in the long term just don't stimulate them. And they need constant feedback so they can feel that their efforts are being recognized.
That's great. I love it.
The traditional pyramid inside of companies doesn't really fit with these anxious young people. They're excited about working with older generations, but only if the relationship is on equal terms and with mutual respect. It's all about exchanging knowledge, no matter your age. Being that millennials find empowerment in discovering things on their own. It's natural for them to diversify their channels and seek out informal types of education instead of simply picking out a major. In the end, professional commitment is not just a norm. It's something that naturally comes from truly engaging experiences. Besides having a job, it's become more important to have a purpose that can be carried out in different forms at the same time. Mobility, shared workspaces, home offices, and the possibility to create your own hours make work always present, anytime and everywhere. For that reason, people with different work styles are having more freedom to tap into their talents, and even those with introverted personalities can transform their ideas into million-dollar businesses. Yes, you can stay in your pajamas as long as you maintain an updated and attractive profile across your social network. As you can see, flexibility is really the way to go. Millennials are fascinated when they get involved in works in progress and feel motivated by learning new skills. They're excited about an open and forever beta world where testing and messing with something unfinished is the only way to create the new. Millennials need more than ever to feel autonomous, and they're exhilarated by the challenge to develop and participate collaboratively. They can change direction quickly and don't let attachments hold them back. It's about living better in the present with no illusion that the future can be controlled. That's because of one simple thing. Whoever adapts more easily can evolve along with the changes. And if you feel overwhelmed by everything so far and are looking for the right answer, well, sorry. We're still going to ask you another question. Are you doing what you love right now? No. So start. The clock is ticking and your life is in a hurry. Discover your life's purpose and make it happen. Loving your work and putting it in motion. It's the only way to lead a fulfilling life every day.
I would suggest you to have a quick chat with your neighbor. Any particular thing that you picked from this video about baby boomers, Gen X and Gen Y or millennials. Anything that inspired you, anything that you picked up from the video. Just talk to your neighbor. They say, love thy neighbor at least. Have a chat with your neighbor. Quick chat.
I like that
So the baby boomers observed this technology observed millennials and millennials. Always dividing.
I realize few are neighborless, so you can either turn back or reflect on your own. Okay.
For the age brackets and
Yes.
the
All right. Was that interesting? So let me ask you 3 questions. There was a very interesting equation. Actually, 3 equations. In the baby boomer era, Success equals what? Success was supposed to be stability, job security. They were more worried about stability. So success equals stability. And when they moved to the next cohort or the next cluster of 20 years, that is Gen X, success equals staying young and growing rich. Prosperity, isn't it? Success equals economic, social, physical prosperity. And in the millennials, interestingly, success equals pleasure, enjoyment. That's the key for future. Purpose and pleasure should go hand in hand. That's why Richard Branson attracts people to his massive business enterprise. He says, I want people to have fun and enjoy themselves. Fun is fundamental for success. In some organizations, they have started measuring laughs per hour. Laughs per hour. Sometimes when I still remember in a particular multinational that I worked, when I go to a particular department, they are all looking at the computer and say, okay, tell me. And they don't even look at you. No smiles, no laughter, no, not even caring talk, just work and work. So all work and no fun makes you dull. So fun factor, enjoyment factor. So the millennials, they require pleasure. So work should give them pleasure. That's why they say your vocation should become your vacation. Not the way the typical government sector organizations in some Sri Lankan organizations run. They have a lot of enjoyment. I remember way back there was a distant relation who said, Puta, we thoroughly enjoy what we do. And I asked, Uncle, how do you work? It's like this, Puta, we go before 8 o'clock every day. And then, Uncle, do you know someone brings all the weekend papers and we have a pack of cards and someone brings some kadala, sandwiches, and we have a kettle and we make tea and coffee and we thoroughly enjoy the day. Unfortunately, it becomes 4:30. And we go home anticipating more fun the following day. Sabatomo Satuting Misri. So that's not the fun here. It's fun through challenges, fun through doing tough work, fun through achieving difficult targets. That's the enjoyment. So millennials want challenges. They want to have purpose, and reaching the purpose as a pleasure activity. That's the mindset. So common characteristics. Research has identified common characteristics, and interestingly, Hewitt, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Forbes, they are all research congruent into these common characteristics, very interestingly. First one, optimistic. They are very cheerful. They are positive. They say A plus. Not their blood group, but always positive. Always positive. Optimistic. They look at the brighter side. And remember, if you are not that, if you are their boss, you have a challenge. And if they see you at the first thing in the morning, they might have a challenge for the day, isn't it? Because you have to beat their optimism. You have to be more cheerful and more optimistic than them. So they are optimistic. And tech savvy, obvious. They are the techie generation. They are the touch and feel generation. And they grew up with technology. And this is even more applicable to the next generation who comes after millennials. They are tech savvy. For everything, they are the texting generation. And we had the writing generation, that is the baby boomers. Then we had the typing generation, that is Gen X. Now we have the texting generation, that is Gen Y, or the millennials. And remember, when you are texting, you have to be extra careful also. There was this husband who was a very fun-loving and enjoyable. He went for a party. And the wife was a little suspicious about the husband's movement, and she was regularly sending SMSs to check the whereabouts of the husband. And husband sent one SMS where the wife got really upset, and she hired a cab van. She rushed to the scene where the husband was having a party, and she started slapping the husband. And simply because he had sent SMS, he meant, I wish you were here. By mistake, he had missed the final E, and it went as, I wish you were her. That E made a big commotion in the home front. I wish you were here versus I wish you were her. Final E made the mistake. See the point? So you have to be careful in texting. So the point is tech-savvy generation. Third one, multitasking. They are the people, they wear the headphones and they do the computer work, they have the sandwich in their mouth and they say hi and bye, and that's a multitasking generation. Even when they are traveling, they have the headphones on and they do the texting and all sort of things, surfing, searching, and tech-savvy and flexible. They are not rigid, they are flexible, they are adjustable, they are adaptable, and also they are transparent. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. Now this can be a challenge for someone. If the boss is not practicing what the boss is preaching, and if the boss is not walking the talk, would they enjoy the work? That's the challenge. That's the conflict that we anticipate. So if the next generation is going to be transparent, the owners, the employers, their leaders also have to be transparent. That's the challenge. Practice what you preach. Dance the dialogue, walk the talk. That's the challenge. And eco-friendly. They are environmental conscious. That's where the carbon footprints, the eco-friendly initiatives, they uphold. They are very much environmental conscious. The green generation, not greed generation, green generation. And finally, results oriented. They are not happy just by having fun. Fun towards fantastic results. That's the future. So they are result oriented. They want results. They want their objectives to be achieved. So the 7 common characteristics of millennials. That is the future. So the future workforce, like the way Emirates say hello tomorrow. These are the people who will say hello. These are the things that we would be having tomorrow. Think about it. Are we ready? Are we there? If not, at least are we willing to gear up to face this challenge? If these 7 characteristics are not fostered in our workplaces, in our accounting department, in our finance department, in our human resource department, in our marketing department, then we are having a problem. Then we would see a demotivated, frustrated people who are willing to leave. They are not willing to stay. For them, lifelong employment is a myth. If they don't get what they want, they will not stay any longer. Because it's the Y generation. In fact, Time magazine mentioned it very interestingly, WHY generation. WHY, why? They ask the question, why? They are not happy if they don't get a transparent, logical, reasonable explanation. And of course, they show their casualty, I mean the way even they are in their attires. And they say, easy way to identify a Y generation youngster is when the youngster is wearing a denim and a t-shirt, when you look back and bend, you can see the Y on the backside. That's the crude way of identifying Gen Y. So these are the 7 common characteristics of Gen Y. And it was interesting to recollect, I did a study with some of the US academics on millennials, and we published a book, Managing Human Resources for the Millennial Generation. And I contributed to one book chapter, Promises of Telecommuting and Preferences of Millennials, because they prefer sometimes different modes of work. Rather than going to office, they can work from wherever they have access to internet. Internet is oxygen for them. As far as they can log into their existing system, they can work from anywhere in the world. That's the future. That's the future. So are we facilitating such flexi work arrangements? Are we giving them such flexibility? Are we providing them such flexi working hours? Those are the challenges. If not, we would not be achieving desired results. Agree with me? Sounds good? Okay. Right. So let's move on. The millennial mandate, in summing up all those things, what we need to do, this is what they want: purpose, passion, and performance. They are very clear about their purpose, where they are heading, and they are passionate about achieving this. Passion includes not the fruit, but the heart, the fun, loving heart. And the performance reflect the passionate pursuit of their purpose. That's what Millennium Mandate is all about. And interestingly, even though we bundle together all millennials, so all Gen Y people, this is where I disagree with Ho and Strauss. We see globalization as a way of connecting people. At the same time, we still see diversity in unity. West versus East. If you look at these are all research-based findings. If you look at the Gen Y in West, they are reaching technology, but they are relegating tradition. They are neglecting certain traditions. They are not upholding some traditional values. In Oklahoma, it's a very common occurrence I see in summer. On one side, you have the pro-life movement led by Catholic priests and nuns. On the other side, you have pro-choice movement led by women's liberation people. So, pro-life versus pro-choice, and I had to run away because I would have got squeezed between the pro-life and pro-choice. So the point is that relegating tradition. Sometimes the traditions are little given aside. And interesting in East, reaching technology for sure, this is the differentiating factor, respecting tradition. I think it's relevant to Asia as well as to the Middle East. Even though they are tech savvy, even though they represent the new generation, they still have respect to the tradition. They still uphold certain traditional values. I see this clearly in Sri Lanka. We have young people wearing denim trousers, Levi's denim, but pirit nool around the hand. Levi's and pirit nool together. Tech tradi combination. So I have coined the term tech tradi tribe to describe this Eastern oriented, value driven, tradition upholding, still containing the features of the West, containing the features of the millennials. This is the term that I use. This is the term that I am researching on. This is the term that I had been publishing couple of articles. Tech tradi tribe. I was in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, making a presentation about this few months ago, and I mentioned the same thing in India. It's tech tradi tribe. This is the difference that we see in our part of the world compared to the West. Because I meet millennials in my classes when I go to US, and I see the difference. On one side they are similar with regard to technology, on the other side they are different with regard to traditions. So this is one example. The laser shows in religion, religious festivals, the Vesak, how they use technology to uphold some religious principles and to communicate religious messages in their daily lives. Tradition and technology. Selfies have become part and parcel of their. So technology and tradition go hand in hand in this tech tradi tribe. So this is my observation of how we can carve out a niche, how we can carve out a speciality as our future workforce in Asia and the Middle East. Same thing is applicable to Japan, same thing is applicable to China. So you see the Asianness coming out clearly. And in South Asia, we see this even coming out more vividly. Therefore, thinking of tech tradi tribe, how smart they are, how specific they are, how strategic they are, just to show a glimpse of it. Would you like to see a part of a popular movie that we have seen? Have you seen Three Idiots? And don't look at each other, I am not referring. So this is a clipping from Three Idiots to show the power of tech tradi tribe.
आज हमारे पीछे ऐसे लीडर हैं इनका मानना है कि वो हमारे हाईली क्वालिफाइड टीचर से बेहतर पढ़ा सकते हैं। आज प्रोफेसर लंच हो जाए हमें इंजीनियरिंग सीखा। We do not have all days.
आपके पास 30 सेकंड है बोर्ड पे लिखे हुए शब्दों का मतलब समझाना है। आप चाहें तो किताब का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। किसी जवाब मिलेगा वो हाथ ऊपर करेगा। देखते हैं कौन फर्स्ट आता है और कौन लास्ट। Your time starts now. Time up, time up. क्या किसी को जवाब नहीं मिला? अब अपनी लाइफ का 1 मिनट रिवाइंड करो और सोचो। जब मैंने ये सवाल पूछा, किसी ने ये सोचा कि आज कुछ नया सीखने को मिलेगा, मजा आएगा? Anyone? सब? नहीं, सब रेस में लगे। ऐसे पढ़ के फर्स्ट आ भी गए तो क्या फायदा? आप लोगों की नॉलेज बढ़ेगी? नहीं, सिर्फ प्रेशर बढ़ेगा। और ये कॉलेज है, प्रेशर को कर नहीं। अरे चाबुक के डर से तो सर्कस का शेर भी उछल के कुर्सी पर बैठना सीख जाता है। लेकिन ऐसे शेर को हम वेल ट्रेन्ड कहते हैं, वेल एजुकेटेड नहीं।
Hello, this is not a philosophy class. बंदोबस्त का मतलब बताओ बस।
सर ऐसे कोई वर्ड्स है नहीं सर। ये तो मेरे दोस्तों के नाम है, फरहान और राजू।
कैसे पढ़ोगे इंजीनियरिंग?
नहीं सर, मैं आपको इंजीनियरिंग नहीं पढ़ाता सर, वो तो आप मुझसे बेहतर जानते हैं। मैं तो आपको ये पढ़ा रहा था कि पढ़ाते कैसे। और मुझे यकीन है कि आप एक दिन जरूर सीखेंगे सर, क्योंकि मैं अपने कमजोर स्टूडेंट्स का हाथ कभी नहीं छोड़ूंगा।
Okay, so what are your thoughts? What are your ideas? See the power of the new generation, future. So not that easy to handle. That's where the transparency, that's where the accountability, that's where the genuineness, they demand it and they require it. They want us to practice what we preach. See, it's not easy. So how to tackle? That's an interesting question. So I have thought about it, so I thought of sharing with you 7 G's for Tech Tradi Tribe. 7 G's. And I was sharing this with my MBA learning partners. That's the term that I use. We don't have students, they are learning partners. We partner with each other for learning. So I'm going to slightly modify what I had been telling them. This is my humble contribution to HR. I think human resource management should revolve around these 7 G's. Goal to start with, the beginning point, the purpose, and then you need to get, give, grow, glue, glow, and outer circle is guard. So I would suggest each G helps us to reflect as to how we should manage the millennials, how we should take care of the tech tradi tribe that would be in our workforce in Asia and in the Middle East in time to come. They have already started coming in. So what should we do differently? Goal, clarity. They should be very clear about what they are doing. If you don't give them the objectives clearly, that will not going to work. I think I shared this with you some time ago. Some people would have heard this from me. This Alice in Wonderland story. Alice was a beautiful girl and she saw a wild dream. In that dream she was playing with some funny creatures. And one such creature, Cheshire Cat, came down from a branch of a tree and asked from Alice, Alice, where do you want to go? Alice said, I don't know. And the cat said, then go in any road. Any road will lead you to the place called, I don't know. So if you don't know where you are heading, you would end up nowhere. In Sinhala we say, Denagana Kataragama, no Denagyo, Hataramag. In a recent seminar with a large gathering, I shared this. And I told them, and I asked them, are you Kataragama people or are you Ataramaga people? They said, we are Kataramaga people. Neither here nor there. And after the seminar, one person approached me and told me, are you Soka Parana Katava? Then they know Alut Katava. Then I got Wattala, no, then I got Mattala. That's a newer version of it. So the point is, you should be clear about where you are heading. If you don't know where you are heading, you will end up nowhere. So clarity, give them the clarity. In order to give them the clarity, you need to have the clarity with you. That's where strategic planning is going to be absolute must. Strategic planning. You got to have a strategic direction, strategic orientation, and then congruence. Everyone should rally around the vision. And in the Bible it says, even in the Quran it says, when there's no vision, there is division. Vision rallies people together, congruence. Get them all around the common challenging purpose, vision. That's what Steve Jobs did in Apple. He got passionate people and he says people with passion can change the world for better. And consensus. Get everyone to say, wow, yes, this is what we want, this is what we want to achieve. Let's go and get it. Go and grow. That is the goal. So millennials get their cheer into success. Adjust or rather channel their spirit into success. That's what we need. Clarity, congruence and consensus. Unlike Gen X, they will not be just obediently following the instructions. Unlike baby boomer, they will not blindly follow the instruction without asking any question. They will be challenging you. They will ask challenging questions. They will ask why. So be ready. Be ready. So you have to be clear. So what are the 3 C's? Shall we say just for fun? What are the 3 C's? Clarity, congruence and consensus. That is the first G you need to manage. Second G is getting. Getting the right person to the right job had always been a challenge. Getting the right person to the right job. And we talk about not having square peg in a round hole. So right combination. So you got to look at the competence, confidence and character. Competence is all about your knowledge and skills that they would bring in, their competence, cutting edge stuff. And confidence, the mindset, are they really willing to achieve results? They are geared for results. So the confidence of millennials would be a blessing to you. Competence they bring in with their academic qualification would be an asset to you. And the character, transparent, value-based character, the honesty, sincerity, integrity that they demonstrate. You need to assess, you need to ensure that you have these 3 C's in the next generation workforce. So what are the 3 C's in GET? Competence, confidence and character. But don't expect them to work for charity and don't expect them to just idle. You need to grow them. Growing. It needs to give them a career. Give them a career, not just a job. So a job might give them a particular way of involving themselves. I hope you all can hear me. But a career is that would take you for the long run. So show them the career path, show them the big picture, tell them where you would take them in time to come. And then also capacity. It's a case of building their capacity, growing them. Like the way you take them at a lower level and enrich their capabilities. You take them up and with care, coaching, mentoring, guiding, all these things are needed. You are growing talent. You are into growing talent. You are into catering them. You are into preparing them for higher positions. So these are the 3 C's in growing. Shall we say out loud just for fun? What are the 3 C's? career, capacity and care. And as I mentioned, don't expect them to work in charity. You have to give them the right remuneration. And the perennial saying, if you give peanuts, you get monkeys. If you give less dollars, you get donkeys. So that will not work with them. And proper compensation, reflecting their performance. PRP is the future. Performance related pay. If you don't separate performers and passengers, if everyone is getting the same stuff, performers will get demotivated. And it's what in Sri Lankan tuk-tuk, three-wheelers have in their back, kochchara kala tochchara thamai. I hope that will not happen, because compensation has to be carefully designed to separate performers from non-performers, so passengers. And compliments. It's not just money, it's the reward, the non-financial aspects. Give the recognition generously. Give a pat on the back. Gone are the days that we talked about employee of the year. We still see in some places where employee of the year, thank you, a framed picture of a frowning face, and you call it employee of the year. But the latest one is employee of the moment. You catch people doing things right, on the spot feedback. And there's a myth in our part of the world. When someone does something wrong, there are so many fingers pointed at that person, and you blame, you make the person ashamed. But when someone does something good, what is the common response? That's why he is paid for. That's why she is paid for. So that's the mindset that we have. So you need to recognize generously by complimenting. And then comprehensive plan, comprehensive scheme, not ad hoc piecemeal, to ensure that everyone is well recognized, everyone is well remunerated through a proper plan. So three things giving. Shall we read out? Three C's? Compensation, compliments and comprehensive. And then we need to ensure that they are glued. It's all about engaging the millennials. That's a very tough task. If they don't enjoy what they do, they will not get engaged. Earlier we had the idea that love the work you have to do, but they will have the idea, do the work you love to do. So to make them oriented to work, make them enjoying what they do is a huge task. So you need to communicate the need of the job, the purpose of the job, how your job is connected to the big picture. You have to communicate and ensure that they collaborate and they continue. And communication is two-way. They also have to be given the opportunity to express themselves. And Gallup Consulting, they use the word say, strive and stay. Say, stay and strive. If they don't express themselves, then there's something missing. Give them the opportunity to express themselves. Sometimes people become political. The boss points to a palmyra tree and tell the employees, look at this coconut tree. And the people say, yes sir, there are some nuts also. So you become, yes sir, 3 bags full. And there was this cartoon in a magazine about a political leader in a cabinet meeting. The political leader says, I would like to propose. And even before he completing the sentence, everyone says, I agree. So that's the political discussion. So we need to be genuine, authentic and sincere in giving your idea. So expressing yourself, freedom of expression, and collaborate, teaming together for success. Not an isolated ivory tower, but interactive, integrative approach. And continuing, not joining the organization and leaving tomorrow. Not treating the organization as an ambalam or a gandhabba state, where you find a better job and you leave, until then you just wait. No, you have to have a long-term partnering, long-term association, long-term value-adding, continuing relationship. That's what it is. Okay? Continue. So what are the 3 C's in gluing? Communicate, collaborate and continue. And we have glowing. They have to shine, they have to show their performance, and they are result-oriented bunch of people. Remember, they want to show results. You have to create the environment where they are geared to achieve results. So you need to have clarity, what they are supposed to achieve, and they will give their commitment and ensure their contribution is connected to the organizational long-term well-being. So they have to be clear, they have to be committed, and they have to contribute. So the contribution has to be linked through a mechanism like balance scorecard, some way of a dashboard, some way of a way of measuring the KPIs, key performance indicators. I think the accountants are very smart at measuring KPIs. But unfortunately, sometimes key performance indicators become another set of KPIs, key political indicators. They manipulate, they adjust, they change based on their requirements. So KPI is getting twisted. So contribution has to be reflected, connected, and they should be given the proper feedback. So what are the 3 C's in glowing? Clarity, commitment, and contribution. And finally, guarding. You need to ensure that they conform to the organizational standards. Even though they are casual in their attire, I'm sure they need to cover the vital aspects. So it's a case of some conformance has to be there. This is one huge challenge for strict disciplinarians. I have seen this conflict already happening in workplaces where you ask people to come in formal attire, and then sometimes these people might say it might strangulate my creativity, and they want to be cool and casual. So where's the borderline? Where's the agreement, conformance? And also consistency. Every time you do something, you have to consistently maintain quality standards, process standards, result standards, delivery standards, service standards. So consistency. And in doing so, you need to have value-based control. For me, the best control in the world is value-based control. We have the most powerful CCTV available in the whole world in us. That's our conscience. That's our conscience. And it had been so many times it came to my mind, say when you are in a Western country, you can go to a supermarket and you can grab something and you can easily walk out without paying, and no one bothers, no one punishes, no one chases you. So what prevents you doing that? Consciousness. So that's the most powerful CCTV. So that consciousness gives you self-control. That self-control is far more valuable than thousands of CCTVs. By the way, talking about CCTVs, in UK they have done a research and they have found 50% of the CCTVs installed in public places are malfunctioning. But still people behave, still people obey because of psychological deterrent. So this has to be even more powerful psychological factor, self-control. So what are the 3 C's in guarding? Conformance, consistency, and control. So these 7 G's would be offering you some insights, some glimpses in order to manage the millennials, the future workforce. So let me pause for a while and interimly invite you to ask few questions up to this point. Are there any burning questions? Are there any clarifications you need? Any bouquets, any brickbats? Both are okay? Malpukuru, Galmukuru, Dekamottu?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Why did you select clarity in 2 aspects? One on the, I think on the goal and as well as on the
Purpose, and you have your set of objectives. Achieving them is part of your performance. So clarity has to be there in setting the goal, the planning part, the goal setting part, where you need to be 100% clear. At the same time, when you assign people to achieve those objectives, when you assign people certain tasks, they have to be very clear as to what they have to do. A simple example I always take is, take a rowing boat. If there are 10 rowers, and if 10 rowers are rowing in 10 different directions, will the boat sail forward? No, it will go round and round because everyone is in a state of confusion. They don't know what they are supposed to do. So clarity is absolutely necessary. Yes.
I think it's a very good presentation. In the Western world now, people are talking about emotional intelligence,
Yes.
which is the software we use. My question is that we do not know the future generations'
Yes.
behavior in terms of technology.
Yes.
My daughter doesn't talk to me now. And the question is that will these research that you have identified will be applicable in the future? Because this is based on current research. We
Yes.
don't know whether this whole theory will be applicable in the future. Number one. Number two, all the terms that you have used are basically the Western terms, which are used in the management theories of the Western literature.
Okay.
I don't see anything here which is talking about my tradition. So your term, that it's a scientific, it's a technology, and the tradition. It's all about it's all about technical things,
Yes.
which coming from the West.
Yes.
Nothing is here which talking about my tradition. So I think it's a gap here
Yes.
that we haven't identified here actually through research. Some factors here that are connecting my tradition with the technology.
Okay.
I mean, your term is okay, that's valid, and I can see it's happening in our societies as well. Number one is whether this theory will be valid 10 years
Yes.
from now, and number two is that all the terminologies that we have used here, it's all from the West.
Okay.
Nothing is talking about.
Right. You are Doctor.
No, I'm not doctor.
You said you finished
No,
your
I'm
PhD.
doctor, but recently PhD.
Okay, research. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the compliment about the presentation. And the second question is, are they valid for future? Always when you do research, there's an element of forecasting, element of being proactive. So this is what we project for the future. It might be relevant, it might be not relevant, but this is what we reasonably project for the future. This might be the future shape. Based on the current understanding, we look at it. True enough, it might be different. And we might not be able to foresee a long time to come. That's what I'm going to talk about next. And the third question is a very pertinent one, tradition. I purposely left it for you all to realize, for you all to synthesize, for you all to reflect, because tradition is something very cherished to a particular nation, a particular community, to a particular country, to a particular region. So where technology is very universal. Technology is universal, technology is available, technology is now becoming more and more affordable. But tradition is something very special, very personal, sometimes very national, very regional. So that's where I can't talk in general on those terms. And also you are right, more research has to be done about tech, tradi, tribe. The term is there, but more authentic research in different countries have to be done. So research is still young, so it has to be more mature in terms of putting more insights. So I agree with you, but the point I make, I still hold it in terms of the need to connect tradition and technology.
I think this is a very good point actually. The word competition, it's a recently introduced that you have a cooperation and competition.
Competitive cooperation.
Yes, at the same time.
Yes.
But it was introduced in the past, but it was not practically seen. But now we see that at the same time we compete and we collaborate also. I think it's a...
But I think for me, the competition, I always see in the nature. It's the ecosystem. My personal view that competition is not found only in the marketing, it's in the nature. How the large trees and small trees, they compete for resources, then how they coexist in the nature. And in the Middle Eastern places in Dubai, when the water supply is restricted, how the trees, how the plants are grown, how they share the resources. So competition, as an example, it's more of a ecosystem thing.
I think it's a good idea that you have coined this word, and it's giving a greater opportunity for the people to look
to further explore.
Yes, I think this is very good.
And I think my invitation for the learning partners who are here is to take that point and explore further. It could be your research, it could be your future project, applicability of tech tribe. Thank you very much. Any other questions before I proceed further? No? Alright. So MBO versus MBO. This is another huge challenge. Since they are accountants, they all talk about management by objectives. But unfortunately, in some of our workplaces, that's not what MBO is. Someone goes to the boss and whispers something to the boss, and boss says, hemada, then management by opinions. So that should not work with the new generation. Millennials, it has to be management by objectives, not the other diluted, distorted one, management by opinions. That will not work. So keep that in mind. It's always objective, rational, unbiased approach. And as he said, emotions are part of it. Emotions. And emotional intelligence is coming in a big way. And we see people successfully passing examinations and miserably failing in life. Vibhage pass, jivite fail. Udeta deba hawsar siupa. So why these things happening? Because emotions are not taken properly care of. So emotions coming into the scene. My best example is New Zealand rugby team, All Blacks. So they channel emotions for success. They channel emotions for victory. Before a game, what do? They do haka. By doing that Mauryan tribal ritual, they hype up their emotions and they channel emotions for victory. They go for the killing instant. They go for the killer fight. That's the way emotions should be channeled for success. In that sense, millennials are very smart. And this I saw from my own eyes recently. I went to Virtusa, one of the leading IT providers from Sri Lanka. They are a global organization now. They are listed in Nasdaq. So I remember going through a corridor to meet my MBA colleague who is a GM now. And there were youngsters coming running and they were shouting and they were joyfully sharing ice cream. They had an ice cream party because that is the project completion day. They introduced a new tradition of having ice cream day whenever they have a project completion. These are new things coming with millennials. So they want to enjoy what they do, because remember, success equals pleasure. Not pressure but pleasure. That enjoyment is very important. Okay. So this is what they would be enjoying. Thriving in turbulences. World will never be a rosy path. It will be more and more turbulent. And we see the topsy-turvy world in time to come with man-made chaos and the nature chaos. We see the El Nino happening and it's getting really hotting up in Colombo. The weather challenges, man-made challenges, the world is getting into more and more chaos. But the dolphins, they thrive in turbulences. So I see some employees in workplaces are dinosaurs and they are not willing to change. So what happens if you are not willing to change and if you become a dinosaur? They are not in the wild but they are in the workplace. It's a choice. If you happen to decide to be a dinosaur, I can tell you one thing, there's a place reserved for you in the Jurassic Park. So instead, I would recommend, and there's no choice, instead of dinosaurs, we have to think and act like dolphins, being dynamic, being really geared to the future. So thriving in turbulences. Tough times never last, but tough people do. That's what Reverend Robert Schuller said in US. When he built that massive crystal cathedral, he had only $5 in his pocket when he decided to build that massive cathedral. And he started using the term possibility thinking. If one door closes, another door will open. Tough times never last, but tough people do. That's about thriving in turbulences. So I would expect you all to think and act in getting the best out of millennials, because they will be your future workforce in time to come. They have already started coming in a big way and they would be the dominant force in the workforce in few years' time. Agree with me? Sounds good? So this is the immediate future. So it's not correct if I don't talk about what next. After Y you get Z, generation Z. So the cohort, the people who were born between 2000 to 2020. So my daughter is a millennial and my son is Gen Z. And some people call them Alpha generation or 2020 generation or different names. Whatever the names, they are the tech savvy children that we see. And someone has done a nice study. He had given a book to a 9-month-old infant. So when the book was given to the infant, instead of opening and reading the book, infant was going like this, using 2 fingers. Why? That's what they are born with. They are tech savvy from day one that they came to the world. And this is the challenging generation. And there's a new term researchers have already coined, reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring. We have a lot to learn from them than us to tell them. So my son has become my smartphone guide. He downloads some Android application and tells me, Tati, this is how this works. And he plays with my smartphone and he has become my mentor with regard to Android applications. So that is reverse mentoring. Now the challenge is, how many of us are willing to do that? How many of us are humble to do that? How many of us are down to earth in willing to listen to this so-called immature, inexperienced young fellows. That mindset will be dooming to disaster. All right? So let's watch such a brilliant generation is a kid. Some of you would have seen this in Eileen, no?
You look so nice. I love your tuxedo. So nice to meet you, Ryan. You're 5 years old, right?
Yes.
And how long have you been playing the piano?
I've been playing the piano for only 1 year and a half.
Really? And what made you decide to start playing piano?
Because when I was little, I loved to play a keyboard, and then
Oh, when you were little.
yeah,
Okay.
when I was little,
Yeah.
and then my mom sent me to a piano teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I just loved it.
And then you loved it. Well, that's good that you love it. And then obviously you're very good at it. How do you remember, at 5 years old, how do you remember all that music?
Because it's just in my memory, I just love it, and then sometimes it just goes to my fingers.
That's called genius. That's what that's called. And you performed Carnegie Hall. What was that like?
It did very well, and I just love it because I love to perform in a big crowd.
In a big crowd. And do you get nervous ever?
No, I don't get nervous. It's just I like to play.
You just like to play. That's so great. And then you go to school. What are your favorite subjects?
Math, and it's just baby math. It's like 8 + 1 = 9.
Oh, baby math. Yes. Okay. And I understand that you speak Mandarin as well as English, right?
Yes, that's very correct.
Okay. So now it's correct ones and very quick. I'm doing very well in this quiz. So do you want to teach me some Mandarin?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay.
So this is how to say how are you?
Okay.
你好吗? And there's
你好吗?
yeah, 你好吗?
你好吗?
That's very awesome.
你好吗? Okay. And what else do I have? My name is Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
How do I say that?
What it means is 是 Alan. So there's another way. 我是 Alan.
Washi Allen?
Very nice.
Really? I think you're just being nice to me now. 你好吗? Washi Allen. That's not right. All right. Let's watch you play, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna play variations on the Russian theme.
That's what I was hoping. Okay, so what do you think? This is the generation to come after the millennials. See, more competent, isn't it? Say the world is going to see the human potential being unleashed. So this is essentially what I have got to say. I hope this is not your approach with the millennials. By the way, these are called incentives. And this doesn't reflect anyone here, by the way. And instead, this is what I really like. Certain things would not change even though change is inevitable. Such wisdom words from Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Shall you all read out the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. This is what we do and this is what we are capable of doing if we can fill the gap, particularly when the new generation workforce is there in place. We can solve most of the world's problems. So we have to unleash the potential of the millennials and the future generations to come for the betterment of our organizations, for the society, for the economic, social, cultural well-being, and for the entire planet to make it better, bigger, brighter. Okay? So just review what we have just discussed and renew and relate it to what you do and reinforce something, at least have one key takeaway from whatever we have discussed. Okay? So with that in mind, let me pause for a while and invite you to raise your questions. I hope we have little time for questions. Okay? I hope this is not your mindset right now. Questions can be entertained. Yes?
Professor,
Those who are in the back, can you all hear? If not, we can give a handheld mic, but let's see without it.
No, I think the one question I would like to ask is, have you, through your research and all these experiences discussed, have you clearly identified the weaknesses or the weak points of the millennials and Gen Y?
That's a good question which I did not cover. The weak points, the shortcomings of Gen Y. Yes, impatience. They want to achieve quick results. If the results are not there, they are not willing to stay and they are not willing to go through frustration. And Time magazine calls them me generation. There's a little bit of selfishness. If they don't achieve results, they will go. And the workplace loyalty is not a feature associated with them. Workplace loyalty. And they are more interested in reaching a purpose. If they are excited by the organizational purpose, they will stay. If the organization does not give them that excitement, chances are very high that they will leave. That's the nature. So lifelong employment is a myth. And retaining them, gluing them could be a huge challenge. That's why some IT firms, they have started offering them ESOP, employee share ownership plan. They become owners of the organization. So then you can't leave your own organization. You have to make them part of the organization. Then they will stay. So like that, innovative ways can be pursued. Yes, other questions? I hope I have answered you fully.
I guess we are yet to discover the alpha generation weakness.
Absolutely, that's the Gen Z. Gen Z, it's too early because they will come to the workforce after some time.
What are your thoughts about the risk-taking factor? I mean, maybe we are from the earlier generation.
Yes.
We see that the point that you made that someone with a $5 in his pocket thought of building the cathedral.
Yes.
Is it the bane of the economy right now we are facing that the whole world is reeling against many adversities that people are thinking big, taking risks, getting into debt and things like that?
Well, honestly, I don't know whether I am qualified enough to talk about economics. I am not an economist. And again, I have my concerns about economists because when George Bush invited economists, one economist said, on one hand, economy is like that, on the other hand, and another economist said, on one hand it's like that, on the other hand, and the George Bush said, can I have a single-handed economist? So this interpreting the world economic crisis, it's a very complex thing. Even Nobel laureate Paul Krugman, when we had the credit crunch few years ago, he said, I wish I could see it 9 months ago. The Nobel laureate also couldn't see. It's a very complex situation, lots of undercurrents. So, but you are right in one way, the risk-taking nature. That's where, say, take a millennial employee. If he or she is not happy, venturing out for fetch visitors, leaving a stable organization, leaving a stable employment, it's a risk. So obviously, future generation will be more risk-takers. Higher the risk, higher the return. But how it would impact the economy and how the overall economic trends around the world, how it will get shaped up with the millennials, honestly, it needs to be studied properly. I think I'm getting confused when I listen to several economists. They all tell different things. So it's a jungle of ideas. Yes, please.
I think my daughter is 7 years old.
Okay.
And,
Gen Z.
Yes, I asked
Yes.
her that you are watching computer, so you will get the glasses. You see, these children have glasses.
Is it the Google Glass?
No, the glasses.
Yeah, okay.
So she will take
Because of your eyesight will get affected. Yes.
Yeah, eyesight.
Yes.
So after 10-15 days,
Yes.
my wife got the eye operated,
Okay.
and she threw away her glasses.
Okay.
So my daughter asked me that I will see the computer. You see, my mother doesn't use the glasses now,
Okay.
so I can throw away my glasses. So I think the challenge is the relationship between this generation and
Yes.
ourselves. We have to change ourselves
Exactly.
to accommodate what their competencies are, what they want.
I think the key word, as I mentioned, is reverse mentoring. Have the mindset of watching them, observing them, and understanding them. Empathy, I mean, looking at their point of view is absolutely necessary. Empathizing with them. Thank you. Thank you for that very important comment. Other questions?
And I think in future the total philosophy and total culture will be changed because
Yes.
people are not coming to the work for the office. They are working at a distance, and the mobile workers maybe.
That's where the telecommuting.
Yeah.
Telecommuting, in fact, it is already happening because then you save cost. You don't have to have a dedicated cubicle, table, chair. You work from wherever you are. Even there was this statement, the young dynamic CEOs in India in IT sector. So what is the address of the CEO of a particular IT company? Seat 5A of first class of a particular airline, because he is globe trotting all the time. So his permanent place is seat 5A. He is a globe trotter. So I mean, working modes will definitely change.
Yeah, once they change, the whole philosophy has to be changed accordingly.
Now it has already started to happen. Take banking industry. Now we don't have to go to a branch to do banking. I do my banking during midnight because I have the access to internet banking. So that has become the feature. So they say in banking, I know so many of you are in banks. How many are in banks? They say the costliest banking operation is the branch, isn't it? Costliest way to access the customer is the branch. There are other more cost effective ways. So this will be the future. And you don't have to go to school to study. I still remember translating a short story by Isaac Asimov about a school being a computer, and the student goes in front of the computer and the computer becomes your teacher. Multiple subjects. So I mean, those are future.
Things and
Everything will change. Change is the only permanent feature. Yes. And again, the way it will be changing, as someone said, we don't know. I mean, say 50 years ago, we never knew that we would be having the things that we are having today. And my son was texting me saying that whether I could bring an Android watch. And we never even thought about Android watches 10 years ago. So things are changing. Things are changing. Okay? So it's more of a comment. Questions, clarifications? I hope whole thing is not a question. How about the backbenchers? Pasupelipitikaru? Or the middle path people? Madhyam Pratipada? Can we entertain few more questions? Yes, please.
Professor, we learned that, I don't know, I learned there's a theory said that success is defined by the 4 factors from the theory I learned, The one is the people, system, information, and all of these 3 pillars about the discipline. It says that if you have the right people to give the right information on the right system, but as long as you don't have a discipline, you are in the success is doubt. So when we talk about the generation, so what would be the discipline part?
Good question. I think I mentioned that in the guarding part, where the discipline comes through passion. That's the difference. Discipline comes through passion. For example, even this happened throughout history. If you take Shuichiro Honda was a technician in Toyota company. And when Honda had the dream of having my own vehicle one day, he was so inspired by that dream. So he started saving money. He gave away his rented house and started sleeping in the workplace itself. So he got himself disciplined to save money because his passion was so powerful. Even still, the Honda used the tagline, "Power of Dreams." It was Suijiro Honda's dream that became a reality. So I think the discipline comes not the way by someone's enforcement, someone's pushing. It comes within. That's where the self-discipline part is the thing that millennials will be very much having. But if they are not having the purpose clear, if they are not having the passion clear, don't expect discipline. So the whole thing has to be connected holistically. Discipline connected to passion, passion connected to purpose. And they will enjoy sacrificing something purposely. Say a mother with an infant would not complain about sleepless nights because the mother enjoys being with the infant. Mother enjoys the company of the baby. So it's not a complaint, but it's a commitment. So discipline comes as a commitment.
It has control and
yeah, the control is more the self-control, more the value-based control, more the normative control. That will be the future.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we compare young
And by the way, if you are not in agreement with my responses, you can put your counterpoint. Then we can discuss and it would enrich our discussion. Perfectly all right. Because I mean, we are all learners. I am a learner in management and I enjoy learning management. And every time I come to Middle East, I learn something in management. So again, we are all here to learn.
Yeah, when we compare the younger generation,
yes.
Nowadays, like when they out from the campus, like they have done all CIMA, whatever the other professional qualifications.
Yes.
When we compare our era, like it was built up with the years of experience.
Okay.
So when we compare in these two generations, mostly the younger people, they are more explicit knowledge oriented, whereas in our concern it is
more tacit.
So would you see this as a problem, sir, one like in time to come? It is lack of, would there be a gap for the experienced people?
Well, tough question, yes and no. In certain cases, experience has been replaced by the availability of information. Say one person's experience has been captured and coded and available for others to refer. That's thanks to internet, that's what is happening with availability of information. So in certain cases, not having experience for X number of years is not a deterrent. I see lots of younger breed of CEOs, younger breed of CFOs, CMOs are doing brilliantly well. So experience factor has been substantiated or compensated by availability of information and your brilliance. That's one side. But on the other hand, certain specific industries, certain specific jobs, for example, if you take a surgeon, if you take a preacher, if you take a counselor, always the tacitness of the knowledge might help in certain cases. So that you can't say, for example, Muttaya Muralidharan, I always say, cannot be recreated. However much you try, however much youngsters you get, you can't recreate another Muttaya Muralidharan because that tacitness will remain him like an iconic. And what we saw in Sunil Gavaskar, what we saw in Sachin Tendulkar, what we saw in Aravind Silva, they are all tacit knowledge. So always the icons will be there. But at the same time, there are ways of young people bridging that experience gap and doing the needful. But that doesn't mean that experience is neglected. Experience is also required for certain identified categories. That will remain the same. Okay? So it's a combination of both. So I would say in a healthy organization you need experienced people as well as educated people, intelligent young people. So young blood and old blood both have to be there in healthy harmony. Have I answered your question? Perhaps we can entertain one final question due to the time. Okay. One final question from anyone? At least one for the road? Nope? Alright. Looks like, sorry, you have a question? Yeah.
So we talk about two generations,
Yes.
baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Gen Y.
Gen Y is millennials. Yeah.
Gen Y and Gen Z. And people coming from different countries, from different backgrounds, will have different different aspects. Like which age category would you define? Sri Lankan being falling into millennials or Gen X, or someone coming from the West, let's say someone coming from UK, falling into that category. How does it really work? And when we're talking about multicultural environment like in Dubai or Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
and how it really works, we're working with in my organization we got around 20 nationalities, and the people at the same age group behave differently. So how would you define this, and how to work with these different people having different mentalities?
Okay, I think first I should check whether I got your question correctly, because I think I explained to some extent the age groups, the cohorts, so the categories, 20 years lapse. So Gen X is 1960 to 1980. So baby boomers 1940 to 1960, millennials are from 1980 to 2000, Gen Z is 2000 onwards. So age category wise, wherever you go around the world, age category remains same as far as the clustering. But you are right, with regard to multi-generational workforce on one side, multinational workforce on the other side, when they are together, when you have, I think that's a Middle Eastern uniqueness, isn't it? You have multi-generational, multinational workforce simultaneously. That's going to be the future. So there the challenge becomes more critical. And again, as I mentioned, there's a clear difference between East and West, and actually you are reinforcing my statement where, say, what you observe in Middle East proves my point that Gen Y around the world are not really same. There are traditional differences. Technology-wise similar, tradition-wise different, and we see very clearly in Middle East. So this is the richness of the diversity, unity in diversity. So it makes things more difficult. It makes things more difficult to understand and more difficult to manage. But that's a challenge. That's a challenge.
Even in the same cluster, the differences occur due to cultural factors.
Yeah, that's what I said. The tradition, different traditions they bring in, coming from different cultures, coming from different regions, coming from different areas. So tradition is diverse, technology is common. That's another way of looking at it. So it's a complex situation. It's a complex situation, and it makes your life little challenging. But on the other hand, it's an enriching way of meeting with people. Rather than meeting same homogeneous group, diversified, heterogeneous, mixed group will always enrich you, isn't it? Alright, so just to sum it up, it's a journey. It's a journey of understanding. It's a journey of discovering. It's a journey of moving ahead by embracing the new generation that will come into the workforce. So may I wish you good luck, all the very best, and you have to show your empathy, your awareness, your understanding in welcoming the new workforce and getting the best out of them. Good luck, all the very best, and bon voyage, happy journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the very useful session what we have had, and which provided full of fascinating insights into the Banerjee tomorrow's paper. And we have a special memento of appreciation to be presented to Professor Ajahn Dhanasiri. So I would like to call upon the immediate past president of PIMA UAE, the current president of PIMA UAE, and I would say the names: immediate past president of PIMA UAE, Mr. Ajanta Premaratne, and the current president of PIMA UAE, Mr. Deepa Rajaguru, and appreciation to Professor Ajahn Dhanasiri. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, To conclude the event, I would like to call upon Mr. Indika Vijayaratna to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Kusal. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this great occasion of the first joint CPD event of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Alumni UAE, known as PIMA UAE, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, UAE chapter, known as CA Sri Lanka UAE chapter. As we all witnessed, this historical event will certainly be a new beginning of the two professional associations. I'm confident that the session was fruitful and you all enjoyed it. I would also like to share with all of you that 6 CA members are already learning partners of 2015, the PIM batch, and that gives also an opportunity for us to continue this relationship in much more successful future. And I think the doors are open for the next batch, which I don't think Professor covered in the last discussion. And our next batch will be commencing, the 2016 batch will commence in October 2016. And we invite most of you to join hands with PIM and explore more opportunities and more advancement of your career in years to come. We would not have had successful event of this kind without support from many parties. I would like to spend few minutes to extend our gratitude to those parties. We are indeed privileged to have Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri with us this evening to deliver the presentation on the futuristic topic of challenges of managing tomorrow's people, which is a subject of common interest for all the professionals gathered in this evening. Having spent 2.5 days of lecturing, almost 11 hours a day, to the 2015 PIM UAE batch, it was an incredible commitment to extend his stay in UAE for one more day to discharge responsibility towards Sri Lankan professionals gathered in this evening by sacrificing several commitments back in motherland. Professor, the positive sentiment and the active interaction of all the professionals in the audience proves that your effort was successful. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me to give a big round of applause to Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri, who made this event a fruitful one. We truly appreciate the support and encouragement received from the President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, Mr. Lasantha Wickramasinghe, and the CPD committee by accepting our proposed topic for the event. Dear friends, we would not have had opportunity today without the support from key personnel. That is none other than Ajanta Premaratne, the past president, and Deepal Vanaguru, the current president of PIMA UAE. Ajanta, I think that did not let me finish. Your experience and guidance, as well as Deepal, your commitment and contribution was really valuable. I also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jayanta Ranapura, the Senior Assistant Registrar of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, for the support extended to us coordinating various aspects of administrative matters related to the logistics of this event. Let us also express our gratitude towards the following members of PIMA UAE as well as CASL UAE chapter, who extended their contribution for the event. Kusal Nanakara, thank you for the event lineup and the comparing. Chamil Mendis is none other than Chamil Mendis, who is behind us and covering this whole session. And thank you for your time and effort of making a wonderful flyer which was admired by the professor, as well as covering the audiography and the videography of this event, the photography and the videography of the event. And also Sagara Gamage, who is not here with us, helped us in getting this hotel for us. And we must appreciate the support extended by the hotel staff by arranging this venue and the hospitality extended by the staff for us. This event will not be a success without all of you gathered in this evening. We would like to thank all the participants, namely PIMA UAE members, CA Sri Lanka UAE members, learning partners from PIM 2015 batch, and all the other professionals who accepted our invitation and joined with us this evening. We are encouraged by having seen interaction and the active participation from the most of you during the session. We all are familiar with the theory of iceberg, where you can only see the 1/5 of the iceberg above the sea level and the remaining majority is under the water. What am I trying to tell you? Last but not the least, it is the PIMA UAE EXCOM and CPD committee as well as CA Sri Lanka UAE chapter EXCOM who were behind the success of this great evening since planning of the event until the end of the proceedings. I am sure many of you would have received several phone calls and follow-up from the two teams to make this attendance to the event. Ladies and gentlemen, let us join our hands together and to say big thank you for all the EXCOM members who has made this event a success. Yeah, that concludes our end of our event, and we would like to invite all of you to join with us for the group photographs that will make this event a memorable one. Have a good evening.